In the first question, it says that the table gives information about the lengths in kilometers of the shorelines of 7 lakes. So we can say in this table, the first column is for lakes, and the second column is the length of shoreline. Which of these 7 lakes has the longest shoreline? It is clearly given that this lake has the greatest shoreline, which is 13,600. Then it says write the number 6, 1, 2, 4 in words. So if we notice, the number has 4 digits. So the first number from the right-hand side, that is our ones. Second number is our tens. Third is our hundreds. And fourth is our thousands. So we have 6,000s, 100, 2 tens, and 4 ones. So 6,000, 100, and 24 is the number in words. Then it says the shoreline of Lake Nasser is longer than the shoreline of Lake Inari. How much longer? So Lake Nasser is this, and Inari is this. So to find out by how much longer is the shoreline of Lake Nasser, we subtract the two lengths. This is going to give us 6,189 kilometers. That's your answer. Then it says write on the value of the 6 in the number 4763. So like I said before, the second number, we start looking at the place value from right to left. So the second number is your tens. So that's 6 tens or 60. Then two numbers in the table round to 4,000 when written correct to the nearest 1,000. Write down these two numbers. So let's go back to the table again. So round to the nearest 1,000, which round up to 4,000, is going to be 3,808 and 4,361. The reason why 3,808 will round up to 1,000 when will round up to 4,000 but round to the nearest 1,000 is because the hundreds place is 8. It's 5 and above. Whenever the number is 5 and above, you round up. So 3,808 is closer to 4,000 than 3,000. And similarly, 4,361, now the hundreds place is 3, which is less than 5, which means we will round down. So 4,361 is closer to 4,000 as compared to 5,000. So 3,808, 4,361. Those are your numbers. Question 2 says simplify 10p minus 4p plus 9p. So this is a clear case of collecting like terms. So 10p minus 4p is 6p. 6p plus 9p is 15p. Then simplify 9 times 4q. So we're multiplying 9 with 4q. So whenever we're multiplying a variable with a number, whatever the coefficient of the variable is, 4 is your coefficient and q is your variable. So we will multiply 9 with the coefficient. So 9 times 4 is 36. So 36q is your answer. Then solve 4r equals to 15. So in this case, they're asking us to find the value of r. So to find the value of r, we need to isolate r. So to isolate r, we need to get rid of the 4 with r. So that can only be done if we divide both sides by 4. So 4 divided by 4 would be 1, and 1 times r is just r. And 15 divided by 4 can be rewritten as the whole number 3 over 4, which is the same as 3.75. So you can give your answer as a mixed number as an improper fraction or a decimal. Question 3 says a box contains 10 balls. 5 balls are black, 3 balls are green, and 2 balls are red. Rema is going to take at random a ball from the box. On the probability scale, mark with the cross X the probability that the ball is black. So we can see that there are 5 balls that are black. So the probability of it being a black ball is going to be 5, which is the number of black balls divided by the total of divided by the total number of balls, which is 10. So 5 over 10 is the same as 1 over 2, which means this is where your probability of the ball being black is going to be. And on the probability scale, mark with a cross the probability that the ball is orange. If you look at the list of colors for the balls, there's only black, green, and red. There is no orange, which means the probability is 0. If the color doesn't exist, there is going to be no probability for that color. Then it says Johan has 3 bags of counters A, B, and C. He tries to find the probability of taking at random a white counter from each bag. He writes his probabilities in a table. Now for bag A, the probability is 0.7, bag B has a probability of 0.45, and C has a probability of 1.2. The probability that Johan writes for bag C is incorrect. Explain how you know that it is incorrect. Now the reason why it's incorrect is because your probability can never be greater than 1. It's always going to be less than 1. It is incorrect because your probability cannot be greater than 1. Then question 4 says, here's a polygon. Write down the mathematical name of this polygon. So let's count the number of sides of the polygon. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 sides mean an octagon. Then write down the number marked with the arrow. So if you look at the divisions between 100 and 200, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fifth one is 200, which means this is going to be 120, 140, 160, 180. So over here, 220 and 240. In these cases, you have to understand what the scale is, what each of the small divisions represent, and then based on that, you can figure out your answer. And it says here are 4 clock faces. Write down the letter of the clock face that shows quarter to 5. So quarter to 5 is going to be this one, the third clock, which is C. Then it says complete the following sentence by writing a suitable metric unit on the dotted line. The height of the Eiffel Tower is 300 meters. Question 5 says here's a list of numbers 2, 8, 9, 18, 24, 28. From the numbers in the list, write down an odd number. So the odd number is 9. Then a number that is a multiple of both 4 and 6. So that means this number comes both in the 4 times table and 6 times table. So that's 24. Then a cube number. So cube number is a number that we get by when the same number is multiplied to itself 3 times. So that's 8 because 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 cubed, which is 8. Then it says a prime number, so the prime number is going to be 2. 2 is a prime number because 2 is only divisible by itself and 1. Then work out the value of 6 square plus 2 cube times 5. 6 square is 36. 2 cube is 8. So 36 plus 8 times 5. If you remember the rules of BODMAS, BIDMAS, or PIMDAS, whatever you call it, you do brackets first, then indices, then division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. So over here, we solve the indices first, which is 6 square, 36, 2 cube, 8. Next, we have multiplication. So we're going to do 8 times 5, which is 40. And then addition, 36 plus 40, which is basically going to be 76. That's your answer. Question 6 is work out the value of x. So we can see that we have a point, and around that point, we have two angles. One angle is 235 and the other is x. Both are completing the circle, which means sum of 235 and x would equal to 360. Hence, x would be the difference of 360 and 235, which is going to give us 125 degrees. Then it says give reason for your answer. Like I said, angles at a point equal to 360. More like sum of angles actually. Sum of angles at a point equal to 360. So for that, it's going to be sum of angles at a point equal to 360 degrees. The next part says that ABDE is a quadrilateral, BCD is an isosceles triangle, ABC is a straight line. Work out the value of y. So if BDC is an isosceles triangle, the main property of an isosceles triangle is that we have two equal sides and two equal angles. They've already identified the two equal sides, which are BD and DC, which means angle DBC also equals to angle DCB. So this is also 54. Now, if this angle is 54, we can easily find this third angle. So angle BDC would be 180 minus 54 minus 54. The reason why we're subtracting 54 twice from 180 is because sum of angles for a triangle is 180. So 180 minus twice of 54 is going to give us 72 degrees. So this angle over here is 72. Now, if you go back to the question again, it said that ABDE is a quadrilateral, which means this thing is a quadrilateral. So what we can do is we can find this angle as well. Why? Because ABC is a straight line. And on a straight line, angles add up to 180. So angle ABD would be 180 minus 54, which gives us 126 degrees. Now, in this quadrilateral, we only have one unknown left, which is y. This is a 90 degrees. So sum of angles in a quadrilateral is basically equal to 360. Hence, angle EDB, which is y, equals to 360 minus 98 minus 126 and minus 90, which is going to equal to 46 degrees. That is your value of angle y. Question 7 says, Harold works in a factory. His normal hourly rate of pay is 14 pounds. His overtime hourly rate of pay is 21 pounds. Harold is paid the normal hourly rate of pay for 35 hours in 1 week. His total pay for this week is £679. Work out the number of hours of overtime he works in this week. So let's first create an equation for this for how much he's paid. So his payment basically equals to his normal hourly rate of pay, which is £14. Let's call the number of hours X. So 14x, £14 for each hour, and then his overtime hourly rate of 21. For this overtime hours, let's call it Y. Overtime hours is Y because obviously it's different. Normal hours is X and the overtime hours is Y. Harold is paid the normal hourly rate of pay for 35 hours in 1 week. His total pay for this week is $679. So 679 equals to 14 times 35 because for 35 hours he was paid for the normal hourly rate. So X is 35 plus 21 times Y. We need to find the overtime hours. So we do 14 times 35, which is 490. Then 679 minus 490 equals to 21Y, which is 189. Then to find the value of Y, we're going to divide 189 by 21, which gives us 9. So the number of hours of overtime work was 9 hours. Then question 8 says simplify 10x minus 7y minus 6y plus 4y. So in this, we collect the like terms first. We can see that 10x, negative 6x are like terms. Why are they like terms? Because both have the variable x attached to them and the variable x is raised to the same degree of power. Similarly, 7y, negative 7y and positive 4y are like terms as well. So if we collect them, we write 10x minus 6x and then we write minus 7y plus 4y. So 10x minus 6x is 4x. Negative 7y plus 4y is negative 3y. So that's your answer. Then t equals to 4d minus 6e. Work out the value of t when d equals to 13 and e equals to 7. So you just substitute the value of d and e in the equation to find the value of t. d equals to 4 times 13 minus 6 times 7. 4 times 13 is going to be 52 minus 42, which is 10. Then it says solve 5p plus 11 equals to 28. So to solve 5p plus 11 equals 28, we'll first move 11 to the other side. And when you move it to the other side, it becomes minus 11 instead of plus 11. Whenever you move a term from one side to the other side, whatever function is performing, it does the opposite on the other side. If it's being subtracted initially, on the other side, it adds. If it's adding initially on the other side, it subtracts. If it's multiplying initially on the other side, it divides and vice versa. So 5p equals to 28 minus 11, which is equal to 17. P equals to 17 over 5, which we can rewrite as 3 whole number 2 over 5. That's your answer. Question 9 says ABC is an equilateral triangle with the sides of length 9 centimeters. Use a ruler and compasses only to construct the triangle ABC. The side AB has been drawn for you. You must show all your construction lines. So if it's an equilateral triangle, what you will do is you will open your compass to 9 centimeters. You will put it at point A and draw an arc that is 9 centimeters long from point A. Then you will repeat the same step from point B. You will put the pointed part at B and draw an arc above the line, which is 9 centimeters long. By 9 centimeters long, I don't mean that your arc is going to be 9 centimeters long. The distance that the compass has opened to, that is 9 centimeters. So once you have drawn the two arcs will intersect above the line, like this. And then what you will do is you will connect point A and point B with the intersection of the arcs. And when you measure the distance from point A to C and from point B to C, you will see that both the lengths are 9 centimeters. So this is how you construct your equilateral triangle using a compass and a ruler. Then the next question says that there are 29 cars in a car park. 10 of the cars are red. The rest of the cars are white or blue. Sasha selects at random one of these cars. Write on the probability that she selects a red car. So for her to select a red car, there are 10 red cars given in the car park out of 29 cars. So the probability is going to be 10 out of 29. Once again, your red cars are 10 and your total are 29. Probability is the probability of any object is like the number of that object present in an entire thing. And then out of those total objects, we're talking about the selected item. So the selected item over here is red and there are 10 red cars. So that comes in the numerator. And the total number of objects out of which the 10 red cars were selected, that's 29. So 10 out of 29 is the probability of the cars being red. Then the probability that Sasha selects a white car is 7 over 29. Work out the probability that she selects a blue car. So we know the probability of a red car, which is 10 over 29. The probability of a white car is 7 over 29. So the probability of all of the cars being selected is basically 1. So 1 equals to 10 over 29 plus 7 over 29 plus the probability of a blue car. All of these add up to 1. So if we simplify the fraction on the right-hand side, we have the same denominator, so that means we can add the numerators. So 10 plus 7 over 29 equals to the probability plus the probability of a blue car. So that's 1 equals to 17 over 29 plus the probability of blue car. Take 17 over 29 to the other side. So 1 minus 17 over 29 equals to the probability of a blue car. So that's going to be 12 over 29. That is the probability of selecting a blue car. So once again, sum of probabilities always for an entire event is equal to 1. So 1 equals to the sum of probability of you selecting a red car plus you selecting a white car plus you selecting a blue car. So we already have the probability of us selecting a red car. We have the probability of us selecting a white car. So to find the probability of us selecting a blue car, we subtract 10 over 29, 7 over 29 from 1, and that gives us 12 over 29. Then question 11 says David is going to make some biscuits. Here's a list of ingredients for making 24 biscuits. So for 24 biscuits, we need 120 grams of butter, 60 grams of sugar, and 200 grams of flour. David has 5 to 50 gram packs of butter, 750 grams of sugar, and 1.4 kgs of flour. Work out the maximum number of biscuits that David can make. So to work out the maximum number of biscuits David can make, 5 to 50 gram packs of butter is basically going to be 5 times 250, which gives us 1,250 grams. This is for butter. 750 for sugar, and for flour, we need to convert this in grams as well. So we do 1.4 times 1000 because 1 kg is equal to 1000 grams. So that's 1400 grams. Now let's compare the quantities. So we know the ingredients for 24 biscuits. So why don't we find the amount that we will need for one biscuit? So for one biscuit, we know that for butter, it will be 120 divided by 24, which equals to 5 grams. Then for one biscuit, for sugar, it's going to be 60 divided by 24, which equals to 2.5 grams. And then for flour, one biscuit will take 200 divided by 24, which gives us 8.3 recurring grams. So this is the amount of butter, sugar, and flour we'll need for one biscuit. So now to figure out the maximum number of biscuits that David can make, what we do is we divide the quantity. So like for butter, now we'll do 1250 divided by 5, which gives us 250. So we can make 250 biscuits using this butter. Then for sugar, we'll do 750 divided by 2.5, which gives us 300. So 300 biscuits for this amount of sugar, and for flour, that's 1400 divided by 8.3 recurring, which is equal to 168 biscuits. So now we have to work out the maximum number of biscuits David can make. So looking at these quantities, obviously for butter, it's getting 250. For sugar, it's giving 300 biscuits, and flour, it's getting 168. So maximum number over here would be 168 because we cannot make 250 or 300 biscuits without the flour. Hence, the maximum number of biscuits that he can make using these ingredients is going to be 168 biscuits. So 168 biscuits is our answer. And this was for 4 marks. Then question 12 says the table shows information about the number of school lunches each of 30 students had in 1 week. Work out the mean number of school lunches. So for the mean value, let's make a separate column over here where we will multiply the frequency and the x value. This is the x value, this is the frequency value. So this is fx. So 0 times 2 is 0. 1 times 5 is 5. Let me write this as f times x. 2 times 11 is 22. 3 times 7 is 21. 4 times 4 is 16. And 5 times 1 is 5. So these are our fx values. So mean basically has the formula of sigma fx over sigma f. Sigma means sum. So sigma fx would be the sum of 0, 5, 22, 21, 16, and 5. Then we divide that by the sum of frequency, which is already identified in the question as 30. So sigma f is 30. So when you plug it in the calculator, what you should get is 2.3. That is the mean number of school lunches. Then it says the probability that Alex takes a packed lunch to school is 0.79. Work out the probability that Alex does not take a packed lunch to school. So the probability of him taking a packed lunch is 0.79. So the probability of him not taking a packed lunch would be 1 minus 0.79. Like I said in the previous probability question, that the probability of an entire event happening is 1. So in that entire event, we have different options which have different probabilities, which when we add them up equal to 1. So the probability of him taking packed lunch to school plus the probability of him not taking packed lunch to school is equal to 1. He can either take packed lunch or he cannot take packed lunch. So they gave us the probability of him taking the packed lunch, which is 0.79. So the probability of him not taking the packed lunch would be 1 minus 0.79, which is 0.21. So remember, if they have given you the probability of an event happening and they're asking you the probability of that event not happening, you will subtract the probability from one to get the other one. Then question 13 says, on the grid, draw the graph of y equals to 2x minus 3 for values of x from negative 2 to 4. So the equation we have is y equals to 2x minus 3. This is the equation, the slope-intercept form. 2 is your slope, negative 3 is your y-intercept. So that means this is a y-intercept because the y-intercept is that value where x is 0. So x is 0 only on the values that are on the y-axis. And x-intercept are those values which only lie on the x-axis, which is where your y values are going to be 0. So this is our y-intercept. Now, to draw the line, we need the x-intercept as well. So at y equals to 0, we will find the x-intercept. So 0 equals to 2x minus 3. Move the 3 to the other side, so it's going to be positive 3 equals to 2x. Then we divide 3 by 2. So 3 over 2 is basically 1.5. So that means it's going to be between 1 and 2. So we have our 2 points, the x-intercept and the y-intercept. We can connect the 2 points. And that's a line. As you can see, we have marked our y-intercept, which is 0, negative 3, and our x-intercept, which is 1.50. So you only need these 2 points to plot your linear graph. If you have them, you're good to go. For the x-intercept, you put y equals to 0. Let me just write that over here. For the x-intercept, put y equals to 0. And for the y-intercept, put x equals to 0. The y-intercept can also be recognized from the equation if it's in the slope-intercept form, which is given over here. And if it's not, you just put x equals to 0 and see what your y-intercept is. Question 14 says, Javi makes 490 loaves of bread each week for his shop. 86 of the loaves are sourdough. Write 86 as a percentage of 490. Give your answer correct to one decimal place. So 86 as a percentage of 490 is this. Because out of 490 loaves, 86 are sourdough. So that means 86 over 490 represents the fraction for sourdough. And then you times that fraction by 100. Because whenever we're trying to convert something into percentage, we times it by 100. So that is going to give us 17.6% correct to one decimal place. Originally, you would get 17.55, but you round that to 17.6 because they want the answer correct to one decimal place. Then it says a loaf of sourdough bread weighs 375 grams before it is baked. The loaf loses 12% of its weight when it is baked. Work out the weight of the loaf after it is baked. So they've told us that 375 grams was the weight of the bread before it was baked. And it lost 12% of its weight after it was baked. So that means the new weight is going to be 88% of 375. Why? Because once the bread is baked, it loses 12% of its weight. So if you're losing 12%, that means what's remaining is 88% of the weight. So 88 over 100 times 375, and that is going to give us 330 grams. So that is what the loaf weighs after it is baked. Question 15 says a diagram shows a shape of ABCDE made from a right angle triangle ABE and a square BCDE. ABC is a straight line, AB is 15 centimeters, AE is 17 centimeters. The perimeter of the triangle AB is 40 centimeters. Work out the area of the shape ABCDE. So we need to work out the area of this shape. So this is a square attached to a triangle. So what we can do is that we can use the perimeter of the triangle ABE to find the third length. So 40 equals to 15 plus 17 plus BE. So 15 plus 17 is 32. And BE is going to be the difference of 40 and 32, which is 8. So that means this is also 8, this is also 8, and this is also 8. So to work out the area of the shape now, we need to find the area of the triangle and the square. Area of square is going to be 8 times 8, which is 64 centimeters square. And area of the triangle is going to be 1 over 2 times base times height. Height is our 15 centimeters. Height is always your perpendicular height, never the slant height. And base is 8. So 1 over 2 times 8 times 15, which is 4 times 15. And that equals to 60 centimeters square. So total area is going to be the sum of 64 and 60, which gives us 124 centimeters square. That is the area of the shape ABCDE. It says that here are the first 4 terms of an arithmetic sequence. The terms are 1, 4, 7, and 10. Find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of the sequence. So for the nth term, first we need to find the common difference. Between 1 and 3, we're adding. Between 1 and 4, we're adding 3. Between 4 and 7, we're again adding 3. And between 7 and 10, we're adding 3. So that means the common difference is 3. Now, to find the nth term, we always multiply the common difference by n. So it's going to be 3n. This is what we begin with. Now we need to change this 3n to make sure that we get the same terms that are given in the sequence. So if we use 3n, the first term would be 3 times 1, which is 3. Now if you notice in the sequence, the first term is 1, not 3. So to turn 3 into 1, we need to subtract it from 2. So using that, if you find the fourth term, let's say, so that's going to be 3 times 4 minus 2, and that's 10. Hence, the nth term is 3n minus 2. Then since the nth term of a different arithmetic sequence is 5n plus 17, find the 12th term. So simple, you just substitute n equals to 12 in the nth formula. So T12 would be 5 times 12 plus 17, 60 plus 17, and that's 77. That's your answer. Question 2 says 450 students were asked how they traveled to school on Monday. Each student walked or traveled by bus or traveled by car or traveled by bicycle. Each student used one method of travel. One of these students is chosen at random. The table shows information about the probability of each method of travel. Work out how many of the 450 students traveled by car. So remember, the total probability of an event happening, like in this case, which is the student going to school, is equal to 1. So in this going to school, the student can either walk, take the bus, car, or bicycle. Hence, 1 equals to 0.20 plus x plus 2x plus 0.26. So that's going to be 1 equals to 0.46 plus 3x. Take the 0.46 to the other side. So 1 minus 0.46 equals to 3x. That's going to be 0.54. Divide both sides by 3. That's going to give us 0.18. That is the value of x. So now they want us to work out how many of the 450 students traveled by car. Probability of car is 2 times x, so 2 times 0.18. That is going to be 0.36. So number of students would be 0.36 times 450, and that equals 162. The highest common factor of 72 and 108. So let's prime factorize 72 and 108. 72 is 8 times 9. 8 is 4 times 2, and 4 is 2 times 2. 9 is 3 times 3. So if you notice, these are our prime factors. We can't further break these down. For 108, it's going to be 54 times 2. 54 is 6 times 9. 6 is 3 times 2. And 9 is 3 times 3. These are once again our prime factors for 108. So now you have to highlight the ones that are common between both 72 and 108. So for that, we have a 3, we have a 3, we have another 3, another 3. We have a 2, another 2, another 2. So as you can see, the HCF is going to be 2 square times 3 square, which is 4 times 9, and that's 36. That's your answer. Question 4 says, Ava records the number of kilometers she drives each month. In April, Ava drove 943 kilometers. This is 15% more than the number of kilometers she drove in March. Work out the number of kilometers Ava drove in March. So April is basically 15% more than the number of kilometers she drove in March. So 15% of x plus x. So that's 943 equals to 115 over 100 x, basically 115% of number of kilometers she drove in March. So that's going to be 943 times 100 divided by 15. And that is going to give us 820 kilometers is the number of kilometers she's traveled in March. That is your answer. And question number 5, which is for 4 marks, says that in the diagram ABCDE is a regular pentagon. So if it's a regular pentagon, that means we have all equal sides and all angles on the inside of the shape are going to be equal, basically the interior angles. So angle AEF is given as 96. Work out the size of the obtuse angle FED. They want us to find this angle. all these three angles add up to 360 because angles around a point are equal to 360. So we can easily find the interior angle for the pentagon because we know the number of sides for the pentagon, which are 5. So n equals to 5. Interior angle formula is n minus 2 times 180 over n. So that's 5 minus 2 times 180 over 5. And that is going to give us 108 degrees. So this angle is 108. So we can easily find FED now by subtracting 108 and 96 from 360, because once again, angle around a point equal to 360. So that's going to give us 156 degrees. That is your answer. This is a very easy 4-mark question. Honestly, should have been 3 marks. But simple steps. You need to know the properties of a regular polygon. You need to know the formula for the interior angle and sum of angles around a point. Question 6 says expand and simplify. So we're expanding double brackets. M would get multiplied to m and negative 8. And similarly, 5 would get multiplied to m and negative 8. So m times m minus 8 plus 5 times m minus 8. That's m squared minus 8m plus 5m minus 40. Collect the like terms. So negative 8m plus 5m is negative 3m. And everything else comes as it is. So that is your answer. Part B says solve 3n minus 4 equals to 5n plus 6 over 3. Show clear algebraic working. So whenever we have a fraction on one side and like whole number terms on the other side, and the fraction isn't being added or subtracted to any other term, we can cross multiply. So that means we multiply 3 with 3n minus 4 to get rid of the fraction on the right hand side. And this is 5n plus 6. Multiply 3 with all the terms inside the bracket. So that's 9n minus 12. 5n plus 6 comes as it is again. Now we collect like terms on each side. So the variables on one side and the constants on the other. So 9n minus 5n equals to 6 plus 12. That's 4n equals to 18. N equals to 18 over 4, which simplifies to 9 over 2 or 4.5. That's your answer. Question 7 has given us a universal set of different numbers starting from 23 to 34. A is a set for even numbers. B includes 23, 29, and 31. C is multiples of 3. We have to list the members of the set for B union C. So when you have the U, that means union. When it's upside down, like sad face, that's intersection. So this is union. And union means all elements in B and C. So now let's first list down the elements of A and C. A is an even number, so that's going to be 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, and 34. For C, multiples of 3, that's going to be 24, 27, 30, and 33. So B union C would include all the elements in B and C. So that's going to be 23, 24, 27, 29, 30, 31, and 33. In case an element was being repeated in both of them, you would only write it once, not twice. Then it says A complement intersection C. So intersection means common elements. And complement means that elements that are not included. So A complement means that elements that are not a part of A and that are common with C. So not a part of A and common with C are 27 and 33. Because as you can see, 24 is in A and C, so is 30. So those are not included in the intersection. But 27 and 33 are not in A, but are in C. So that is our answer. Part B says, is it true that B intersection C is a null set? So B was 24, 27, 30, and 33. So if we compare B and C, we can see that there is no element common. When there's no common element, that means it's a null set. It has no elements. So yes, there is no common element between B and C. Then it says the set D has 4 members and is such that D intersection A union C is a null set. List the members of set D. A union C would be 24, 26, 27, 28, 30, 32, 33, and 34. That's A union C. So they're saying it's intersecting with D, and that is a null set. So then D would have been 25, 23, and 29, 31. That's it. This would be D then. Because if we find the intersection of A union C and D, there is nothing common between them. And only in this case, we would get a null set. 25, 23, 29, and 31. For this, write this in ascending order. So 23, 25, 29, 31. That's your answer. Question 8 is 3 marks. It says that a cylinder is placed on a table. The volume of the cylinder is 1,575 centimeter cube. The force exerted by the cylinder on the table is 84 newtons. Work out the pressure on the table due to the cylinder. So pressure equals to force over area. We have the force, we need to find the area. So volume, if you know, is basically for the cylinder pi r square h. Pi r square is your area of the base. So 1,575 equals to pi r square times 21. So if we divide these two, that gives us the area. 75 centimeters square. This is your area. So now pressure is going to be force 84 divided by 75. And that gives us 1.12. That is your pressure that's exerted on the table due to the cylinder. The table gives the amount of rice produced by each of 2 countries in 2020. You have Indonesia and Argentina. Write 3.5 times 10 to the power of 7 as an ordinary number. So ordinary numbers are numbers which are not written with 10 to the power of something. So for 3.5 times 10 to the power of 7, we're going to move the decimal 7 places to the right-hand side. Why to the right-hand side? Because the power is positive. If the power was negative, we would move the decimal 7 places to the left-hand side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's going to be 35. And then after 35, we add 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That is your number in ordinary form. Then it says in 2020, Japan produced 6,780,000 more tons of rice than Argentina. Work out the amount of rice Japan produced in 2020, giving your answer in standard form. So Argentina is 8.2 times 10 to the power of 5. And to this we add 6.78 times 10 to the power of 6. I converted 6,780,000 into standard form because they want the answer in standard form. So when I convert this in standard form, I move the decimal 6 places to the left-hand side now. So what we can do is we can take 10 to the power of 5 common. That leaves us with 8.2 plus 6.78 times 10. That's 10 to the power of 5 times 8.2 plus 67.8. Add the 2. So that's going to equal to 76. So 76 times 10 to the power of 5 in standard form is 7.6 times 10 to the power of 6. The reason why I changed 76 to 7.6 is because in standard form, the number before the decimal, it has to be 1 and greater, but less than 10. So we can't write 76. 76 has to be turned into decimal, so 7.6. So 7.6 times 10 to the power of 6 is your answer. Question 10 says simplify 2p to the power of 0 where p is greater than 0. Anything to the power of 0 always equals to 1. So since the entire 2p has a power of 0, then all of this equals to 1. If it was just p to the power of 0 times 2, then that would equal to 2 times 1, that's 2. But in this case, since the entire bracket has a power of 0, it's equal to 1. Then it says y to the power of 9 times y to the power of negative 3 equals to y to the power of n. Find the value of n. So whenever we have similar bases being multiplied, we add the powers. So it's going to be 9 plus negative 3 equals to y to the power of n. Y to the power of 6 equals to y to the power of n. Since the bases are same on both sides, that means the power are also equal. So n is 6. Then it says simplify fully 5a to the power of 4 c square whole power 3. So whenever there's a power outside the bracket, inside the bracket, it's distributed on all of the terms inside the bracket, and the powers are multiplied, not added. Powers are added when you're multiplying similar bases. But when there's a power outside the bracket and inside the bracket, those powers are multiplied. So for 5, it's going to be 1 times 3. For it's going to be 4 times 3. And c is 2 times 3. Now the reason why I did 1 times 3 for 5 is because whenever there's no power written on top of a number or a variable, it's always assumed to be 1. So it's going to be 5 cubed, a to the power of 12, c to the power of 6. 5 cubed is 125. So this is our fully simplified answer. Question 11 says diagram shows a roof support. The roof support is made from 4 lengths of wood, AB, AC, BC, and MC. AC equals to BC equals to 9 meters, and AB is 12 meters. So this is also 9. Angle AMC is 90. This is also going to be 90. So if these two lengths are 9, these two angles are also going to be equal. So they are saying that Lewis is going to buy lengths of wood to make the roof support. The wood costs 21.50 euros per meter. Each length of wood he buys has to be a whole number of meters. Work out the total cost of the wood Lewis needs to buy. Show your working clearly. So we have four lengths, AC, CB, which are already given. AB is given. We need to find the length of CM. So since it's an isosceles triangle, that means CM is right in the middle. So this is 6 and this is also 6. In a right angle triangle, if we're trying to find one of the missing lengths and the angle is not given, we can easily use Pythagoras theorem. So it's going to be CM squared plus AM squared equals to CA squared. CM squared equals to CA squared minus AM squared. That's going to be 9 squared minus 6 squared, which is 81 minus 36, square root both sides, and CM comes out to be 6.71 meters. Since the question says that each length of wood has to be whole number of meters, we're going to round this to 7 meters. So for the perimeter, which is basically the total length of wood that we need for this roof support, that's going to be 9 times 2 plus 12 plus 7, and that gives us 37 meters. So for total cost, they said that for per meter, it's 21.50 euros. So for 37 meters, it's going to be 37 times 21.50, and that gives us 795.5 euros. That is the total cost of wood Lewis needs to buy.